What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 7 of the Sensible Solutions Coaching Podcast. This is Trey Bruffy. With us today, as always, is
Hmm.
owner and operator of IMH, Austin Stout, and then owner of First Call Up Fitness, Jeff Sue, and then his assistant coach, Eric Appler. How's everything going, guys?
Abler.
Appler, is that how
Right.
you pronounce it?
Alper.
Alper.
Appler?
Alper.
Oh,
That's
well,
close. That's close. I've heard worse.
close.
Yeah.
Oh, well. How's everything going?
Good, good, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Another funny story that I want to tell people.
Oh, okay.
I have to get
All
this
right.
out of my mind.
All
So,
right.
over the past week at my house, I have this like stone room where you first walk in, like the side of my house, and it's just like a sunroom. It's like a solarium type of thing. And I keep some like my vending machine snacks in there and my rat food and all that stuff for my rats, right? And so lately I've noticed that there's been a ton of flies in that room. And I'm like talking like giant, juicy, like black flies. And I kill at least like 10 to 12 per day. And I'm trying to figure out where these flies are coming from. And I look through the food, there's nothing rotting because it's processed food. Like I don't think flies would even touch Doritos, you know? Nothing with the rat food. I looked through there's like a baseboard heating, like a I don't know how to describe it, but I looked through there to see if the flies may be coming from the basement into the room because I did have some mice exterminated like a couple months ago, and you know when you poison mice, they die wherever they die, and then their bodies just rot in your walls, and then flies could generate from there. But it was such a long time ago, and I don't know, I just couldn't trace it. And so I can't help but to imagine that there is this guy that I'm taking to court because he refused as a
Holy
client of
shit.
mine, and I'm taking him to court
Yeah.
for over $3,000 because he was like somehow unhappy with the coaching. This is his second time back with me, and he never checked in, so I didn't make any changes. And because of that, he's trying to claw back payments dating back to February. And so I have a small claims court date with him. So I'm imagining he's already been served, but he's like this HVAC guy, right? So my intrusive thoughts keep thinking that this motherfucker probably like threw some rotting meat or something into like some vent in my house when I wasn't home. And
Just dumped a bunch of maggots in there or something.
and that's why I have flies in my house now.
Maybe. You need to
You
get
have
like some
bananas?
security cameras or something.
I don't have security cameras, but it's like it's
Get some.
possible. It's possible. If I was
What?
an HVAC guy and I knew like the ins and outs of AC ducts and all that stuff, and I hated someone, I'd probably throw some raw meat into like someone's house.
It's not impossible.
Oh man.
I mean, if I would do it, someone else would do it.
He might have, dude. I don't know. I mean, it
Anyway,
didn't
yeah,
smell.
it's
It doesn't
not like
smell in there
there's
though. It would
dead flies
smell.
like everywhere in this room, and I just like don't want to vacuum them up because I'm trying to count like how many of them I can collect like on the floor, and then I'll have my cleaning lady clean them next week.
Oh my god.
You have bananas in the house? That can do it.
No bananas.
Okay.
Bananas, yeah.
I
Me
could
and Val had that happen to
throw a
us. Like
banana
when
in the middle
we,
of the floor and like just see what
Yeah,
yeah,
happens.
they are big too. They're like big.
Yeah, Eric,
Flies.
yeah.
I
We
saw him this
tripped on
weekend. Yeah.
mushrooms yesterday, and
Don't tell. We're telling people. Okay, yeah, we did. We did eat mushrooms yesterday.
yeah. Anyways, that's it for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was fun though. Psychedelics are cool every now and then.
Yeah. All right, what's new with you, Austin?
Uh New. Got a class coming up tonight that I'm teaching.
Oh yeah,
And then
nice.
other than that, Trey and I have been doing some business chatting, talking business, figuring some stuff out. We're trying to make sure everything's running smoothly. Um, Nothing bad though. I mean, everything's running, everything's good.
Yeah.
Cool. How long
This
have you
month
guys
was
been partnered up?
fairly good. What's that?
it'll be
Sorry, I was
three,
wondering how long have you guys been partnered up? I don't even know.
it'll be 3 years
3.
next
Oh, okay,
month.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and we've known each other in some capacity for
It's gonna be
going
10
on
years.
what, 10 years?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
gonna be
awesome.
10.
Okay, you guys been friends for a while.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, 2000
It's
feels like
2016.
2016. Yeah, moved up
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
But no, July was a pretty good month as far as getting some momentum going again. But yeah, just figuring out business shit, dealing with people,
Yeah.
dealing with
Yeah.
delinquent, charges and things like that.
Yeah.
Like a
Oh,
business court.
does that happen? What, like a card doesn't go through or something?
People cancel cards or just
Yeah,
Yeah.
things happen sometimes
totally. That's annoying. Yeah,
every once in
all
a
the
while.
admin stuff takes up so much time.
Yeah. So other than that, everything's been pretty good. What about you, Trey?
It's been steady. The last podcast I talked about coming back from my trip, if I recall.
Yeah.
Um, and since then, it's allowed me to like take a step back and let Val help with more. It's kind of like that meeting we had the other day with like virtual assistants and stuff like that. And I was like texting Val, I was like, well, I got a Valerie. She can just do all of it for me. Um, and I haven't been putting her to use for the last year and a half or so. She's been doing some stuff, but now I've been able to give her more that she can take over and I don't have to do it. Um, so that's been helpful. It's just doing that. And then the biggest thing I've been just trying to do the self-care stuff, just trying to get off my phone. Like I got to answer your emails today because I got this thing called a brick where I scan my phone every night and it locks my phone up. Well, every Friday at 5 o'clock in the evening, I scan it and it doesn't get unscanned until I finish my last in person on Mondays. So I have no way to access any of my texting or emails until like I've officially got through the weekend, spending
Oh
time with
wow.
her and
Do
doing
you have a
stuff.
work phone or is it also your personal phone?
It's my personal. So with me, it's like and it's something me and Jeff have talked about a lot. It's like when somebody messages me, it's like they're not reaching out like urgent, or they might be urgent, but I don't think they always expect to answer right away.
Hmm.
But like my personality makes me feel like, oh no, I need to get there and help these people.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've been really trying to work on. So the easiest way was to just lock my phone up. Um, and I used to have an app that did it, but then when I would let my wife unlock it, I just wouldn't lock it back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
get away from it. But this thing, it sits on the fridge and I just like scan my phone. She can actually look and track how long has it been bricked. So when she went out with her mom yesterday, she said, "Are you gonna be working?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm just be messing around the house." And she can come back if she wanted to see if I've unbricked my phone or unlocked it to get on it.
She's keeping tabs on you.
Yeah, it's something like I'm just so addicted to everything
Hmm.
that we unfortunately have to go to lengths of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will just sit and work all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I have to be doing something. I'm not someone that likes to just sit and do nothing. I get stressed out. I get anxious about
Jeff and
everything.
I were talking about that yesterday. Yeah, you have to be able to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Just
So
let your
that's
body and your brain
something
relax.
I've been trying to work on with my counselor and my wife and stuff like that. So
Good.
other than that,
Yeah.
that's basically it.
You can get back to me whenever you have a chance, by the way.
I'll get back to you. Send me a link to your class and I'll be on it.
You gonna come?
Yeah, I planned on it.
Okay, I'll send you a link. I will do that.
Yeah, I'll listen to it.
Sweet.
Is it similar to the one you did in Vegas? Yeah.
Yeah, I might tweak a couple things. So, but that's what's going to be. I didn't want to devalue
Right.
the in person by running it 1 month after the event. But, also with the event, you're getting what, 15 different people,
Yeah.
speakers and
Yeah.
all the networking and stuff. So it's a little, some people want to do that stuff and some people don't. The in-person stuff's a hard sell
Yes.
anymore, you
Yep.
know, just a hard sell. Like a lot of places, like I even heard what was the big one? Swiss was even having a hard time,
Yep.
which is a huge one, you
Yep.
know, it's tough, man. A lot of people don't want to do it, but
Hmm.
anyhow,
Yeah.
we were going to discuss based on what one of my recent social media posts about the realities of fat loss and
Mhm.
the for whatever reason, just the arbitrary numbers and parameters and ideas that we've kind of been inundated with in the last probably 5 years, especially. Um, which I have my own opinion on it. I think that we're probably on a similar page. I think a lot of people that have these kind of like hard and fast numbers don't have a lot of experience with whether it be getting people weaned or maybe with themselves, or maybe they had a bad experience going, going below a certain amount of calories or whatever. But a all these things like saying someone can't eat less than 1,000 calories lacks context. For one, is like how big are they? How long are they doing it? Are they having cycles where they're, cycling calories? Are they refeeding? Do they rest? Like what does that even mean? Because
Right.
I could not eat for 3 days and I would be okay. I would be very hungry. But it's not gonna like metabolically ruin me.
Mm.
Right.
So I think that all of these statements at their core lack a lot of context, first and foremost. And there's also, to take it even further, a lot of the time we're talking about general population females, especially. And what would make someone think of that if a competitor who has substantially more muscle mass and probably higher training intensity and overall higher caloric needs, higher metabolic rate, if they're having to do that to get relatively lean, like these Gen Pop women they just don't have a capacity for a lot of calories. A lot of them don't, you know. What their lean body mass is like less than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, I think we could start there. I mean, I think Austin said this, and I've said this before as well. It's like the average, like talking women, the average female that I get, is anywhere from 30 to 60 years old. She's probably 5'2" to 5'6" and can be anywhere from 160 to 220 pounds. And every single time, I always say that their lean body mass is probably like 120, 130. So some people are carrying close to 70, 100 pounds of fat. Best case scenario, they're carrying around 20 to 40 pounds of fat. And they don't have a lifetime of training experience in the weight room. They don't have intensity, form, connection, or the time, you know? And so how many calories do you think it's going to take to maintain 120 pounds of lean mass? Not that much, especially if you don't have the time to put it in the gym or your gym sessions aren't really productive. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to eat a lot.
Yeah, totally. And I know that the the markers that these numbers that we've seen are kind of similar. You shouldn't go below 1,000 calories, or you shouldn't go below 1,200 calories, or you
Yeah.
shouldn't go above. Uh, here's one of my personal favorites. One of my personal favorites is you shouldn't go above X amount of cardio. They'll say, well, your client shouldn't have to do, an hour and a half of cardio or whatever, 2 hours of cardio. Yet these are the same coaches that are walking 20,000 steps a day. I'm like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm like,
Same.
it's
Yeah.
the same,
Same
it's the
thing.
same shit. It's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
because one is on a treadmill and one is on the pavement.
Yeah.
Like
It's
your
cardio.
one is on your walking pad in front of. I mean, if you're doing 20K steps on a walking pad, you're on that shit for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not, but you're on there for a while.
No, no joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm like, that's the type of stuff that blows my mind. I was like, there's not the difference is there's not a difference. Like, what's the difference?
What
I
gets
think
me a
it's
lot.
like, tomato, however you want to call it, but people are like so like cardio adverse and they're like, yeah, I'm just getting steps. I just, count my steps all day and I wear my tracker. Like as you said, it's the same thing. Um, 2 hours of cardio is not outside the realm of normal, I would say.
Nope.
Maybe not all the time, and maybe not long term, right? But
You got to go there if you have to.
Yeah, if you have to.
sometimes, I mean, it happens.
Well, I
Yeah.
also think it depends on like where they're at. Like if someone like for example, something I'll do is if I have someone that's morbidly obese and their blood pressure's through the roof, the last thing I'm gonna do is push a bunch of weight training. I'm gonna push more cardio
Yeah.
get some of that weight off and get them cardiovascular fit. Like, so it really does depend. It's not as black and white,
Hmm.
just like it's not black and white with 10,000 steps, or if you go to this calorie, you are a bad coach and you're hurting everybody, that type of thing. And I think when I think about like a topic like this, it also brings me back to like what Jeff and I were talking about live is everybody's talking about feeding up and you've got to be X amount of calories. If you aren't dieting on 2,100 calories, then your coach doesn't know what they're doing. And it's like, I'll be very frank with you. I don't have a single female on my roster that we're dieting on 2,100 calories that
Yep.
are
That's
lifestyle
true.
because I don't help competitors. So I think the first thing to remember is like genetics is one. Two is looking at how much muscle mass they have.
Mhm.
And then three, also understand the demographic. None of these people are Mr. Olympias. None of these people are going to go to the length of that intensity to get there. They never will get there genetically, intensity wise, whether it's in the gym or with substances or et cetera. I think that's what a lot of coaches are missing there is like they're just following the same narrative that's thrown around. It's been thrown around.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to work hard. Like nobody wants to do 2 hours of cardio a day and eat like 1,200 calories of like fish and asparagus. So it's an easy sell to tell people that, my people never have to do more than an hour of cardio a day. It's like just coaches trying to get business, just like the coaches who are new to this business, right? They'll be like, my clients they can call me and text me anytime. I'm not like so and so that charges for texting or calling. I'm like, yeah, because you have 5 clients. Wait until you have like 70, 80. You're not going to be on the phone all the time, you know? So it's that, it's the advantage of just not knowing any better. And you're using that for marketing. And I see that all the fucking time.
They're yeah, bragging on their clients not having to work hard.
Yeah, or you get a cheat meal. You get a cheat meal every week while you're on prep if you coach with me.
Yeah.
Appealing to these weak spots, I would say, if I'm going to be very honest. And yeah, human nature falls for that. So
And then none of their athletes are in shape on stage,
yeah,
and no one puts the pieces together, which is crazy.
yeah, yeah.
The big thing too, I think, with a lot of competitors, I hear them say, like, I don't want to lose muscle, you know, and it's like, dude, if you're on stuff and eating protein, like you almost can't,
Yeah,
you know?
it
Yeah,
takes it definitely you have to be in that state for really long periods of time before that starts to become a concern. And
totally. Like you have to be,
and
you have to be intentionally trying to burn it
sure,
off.
yeah, and with most of the people that we're applying this to, it's often revolves around the gen pop females or the contest prep female. But I always like to
Yeah.
raise this point too. What about males?
Yeah, I was talking about guys in that
What
context.
about a guy? What about a male that has to eat 1,500 calories to get in shape and he's like 190 some pounds peeled? Like that's
Mhm.
not a small guy. Like 190 some pounds, 180 some pounds, like peeled. I mean, that's a guy that walks around at like 220 pounds or more in the off season. That's a big individual by any standard, right? Maybe not IFBB Open Pro, but that's a big guy. Why does no one bat an eye at that? Why are they not thinking, okay, well, 1,500 calories? I said, okay, well, let's do lean body mass. Let's do lean body mass times calories. That's lower than what you're saying with half of these females eating 900.
That's a good point. The relation.
I've
Yeah.
had preps, I've had plenty of preps at that 1,500
Hmm.
or so. And I'm thinking, dude, I'm weighing 195, 198 pounds on stage. And, so I've got like 190 pounds of lean body mass. I'm eating what? 7 times my lean body mass in calories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's the equivalent of that at a female? Like 600 calories.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
600, 700. Yep.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know why that's like, why are we not talking about that?
That's a great. I don't know where it comes from.
Well,
And I
it's
found too, like, have you ever noticed, like, with some of these people, when you do put them on the low calories, like, I'll expect them to be starving, but sometimes they're just like, ew, I can't eat all these vegetables. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Like you're not ravenous?
Right.
So they're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
In
like
the
To Trey's point, though, just to go back a little bit here, genetics plays a role, right, in terms of how lean you can get and how intensely you need to diet yourself down to get to that point. But a lot of people who are looking at these transformations online and looking at these photos being posted by coaches, they don't realize that some of these people are in the genetically gifted category. Some of these people are taking a lot of drugs that they don't want to openly admit to. There are a lot of metabolic enhancers, fat burners, things like that that can be used so that you can eat more food while still losing and still lose body fat and be somewhat comfortable, right? And then, there's another category where, it's just the time commitment. So, like, I don't know of too many, like, 40-year-old moms that have the time to walk 20,000 steps a day and go to the gym for 2 hours and do all the meal prep and all that and balance their family and kids and all that, right? So, you're looking at almost outliers that are like a combination of these three categories. Well, I don't know if there are more, if you guys can think of any, but I would say genetics, drug use that isn't announced, and also time commitment are factors that feed into some of the transformations that we see and look up to online.
the genetics is a great point, and I would like to. I think we should make it very known that genetics are. Let's okay. If you are a pro bodybuilder, even if you're a pro bikini athlete, even which, sorry, it's not as hard as being a pro bodybuilder. I'm just say that. I'm sorry.
Careful, careful.
Sorry. It's not the same, but okay. But it's still hard, right? It's still difficult to do. If you are that, you have good genetics. Or you have above average genetics. I'm not going to say that you have the best because the best would probably insinuate some like crazy bone structure and some like really weird upper echelon gifted stuff, that people just don't have. But you still don't have bad genetics.
Mhm.
60-year-old, menopause Jill over here, it's not the same. Like,
Yeah.
like what? We can't even begin to compare these populations that are being compared. So again, these arbitrary numbers lack context. And we don't want to make anyone eat less than they need to eat. We don't want to make anyone, do more cardio than they need to do. That's definitely not the goal.
Mhm.
But I think that it's just crazy that the people that are often saying these things or making these claims are not even relatively close to the same lifestyle type of person or demographic as the people that they're talking about.
Mhm.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
well said.
Yeah.
So like it's strange. It's just very strange to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
as like I don't quite understand how that works, but maybe that's just my logical brain.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about fat loss, the calories have to come from somewhere, So if you don't have the time to, train as hard as you want to train and you don't have the time to get in the steps or the cardio, it has to come from food. So people have to be prepared and people have to know that this is the truth of dieting. And there's only so much feeding up that you can do and looking into hormones and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it just comes down to you just got to suffer. You just got to be hungry and lean into that hunger. And, that's one problem that just people aren't fully prepared for just how hungry you might have to be. And that to some degree is also genetic too, because our bodies all have, certain set points where we're happy, and comfortable. And when we're pushing ourselves further and further outside of that, hunger signaling, leptin, ghrelin levels, the hunger hormones get all messed up, and your body will fight you. Body temperature drops, sex drive drops, your sleep gets disturbed, and people read that as, oh no, I'm doing the wrong thing, but that's where you have to go, you know,
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
short term,
short term.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's not a settling point, and it's a normal adaptation. But
Yeah.
sometimes too, Eric, you brought it up. You mentioned oh, I can't eat all these vegetables, right? Well, like sometimes
Yeah.
people they do that and they actually don't see negative feedback markers.
Yeah.
A lot of the women I work with that are, 50, we'll say I'll start 40. I'll say like 40, 50 and up. They can comfortably eat those calories and have good blood work and feel good,
Hmm.
assuming that we're doing a lot of the other things right in their
Yeah.
routine. So it, I mean, I'm like inclined not to be concerned. You know,
Yeah.
when I say
No.
those calories, I'm saying if they need to go down to below 1,200 calories to lose weight, and everything still looks good and their labs look good and they feel good. I know labs are not measuring a lot of the your leptin and your ghrelin and necessarily metabolic adaptation, but biofeedback does matter. Biofeedback means a lot. So just because one person is ravenous on 1,800 calories and another person's not, it's not the same person.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. You're not necessarily hurting anyone.
Yeah. Like right now I have I have two female clients roughly around the same weight. One of them I did a protein veggie day with, and it's like, less than 1,000 calories, just literally lean protein, vegetables. We did it for one day. Her blood glucose dropped 15 points, but she had like crazy headaches, just nauseous, like just couldn't stand the hunger. And she dropped like 3 pounds overnight. And she begged me not to like have her do that ever again. I was like, okay, we won't. We'll go back to our normal diet. And then I have another woman doing it. She's on her third day now. She's like, I feel fine. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, do another one. And her blood glucose dropped and her weight slowly coming down as well. So yeah, biofeedback matters. Communicating with your client matters. Seeing just, where they are mentally and emotionally with pushing and just, kind of feeling that out and kind of encouraging them to push a little bit more each time. And then pull them back to life. That's what I do, and it works. So
Yeah, you guys think that I think that it started a long time ago. I actually think it started with the original metabolic damage, which was a for people that don't know, that's probably what, 10 years ago?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll
yeah,
just say something like that. Might actually have been longer even. I
yeah,
don't know. But that, and then the term changed to metabolic adaptation. And then people kind of became aware that, okay, well, there are these adaptations that do occur. We know that that's true. People weren't really looking at lab work as much then, and they didn't really understand that, thyroid downregulated and leptin and all these things. And then there was actually a little bit of research that came out. I think there was one of the originals I remember in a study that I still cite was with male pro natural bodybuilders, and they did basically a contest prep case study, and they looked at the markers post prep, hormones, but they also measured things like leptin levels and things in a lab that they were actually have access to measuring. And they were saying, like, here's how long it took us to return to normal post show. And it was a fairly long period of time. And I would probably assume that these are pretty diligent individuals, right? Having a lot of experience. And so I think that did open a lot of our eyes to the fact that, okay, well, there are these long-term adaptations that can occur. And we've seen it, right? We've seen that if you expose yourself to that over and over and over again, time after time, without enough space in between, then it does become difficult,
yeah.
right? And you need enough time away from that kind of
Mhm.
that threatened state to see these adaptations go back the other direction.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
not that it doesn't exist. So when we're saying this stuff, like we've already vetted a lot of that stuff out with our clients,
Mhm.
Hmm.
right? Maybe we've maybe we felt it was necessary to keep them out of a deficit for a while, maybe not. Maybe we went straight into fat loss, but you got to understand the context too to know what you're doing. So if your client comes at you eating 900 calories and they're not losing weight, I mean, assuming that they're actually doing that, I would probably I would probably ask some questions at that point. Like there's some things I would definitely want to look at, especially because 9 times out of 10 they're like a bloated mess and they look normal everywhere except for their stomach's blown out and shit. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
at that point, this person's extremely stressed, GI issues to the hill. Like we know all that stuff. We're not going to do that to that person.
Right.
We're not. So I think we should point that out. I don't want people to be like, you just need to eat less, bruh.
No,
That's
no, no.
always
Yes,
the
we want.
answer.
No,
But
it's just don't be afraid to
if
if it
you
makes
need
sense.
to, and if
Yeah.
it makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we're
yeah.
saying. Yeah. There's no black and white rules here. It's all just, case dependent and situational. But there are tools that, can be used. And, we're just saying don't shy away from that.
Yeah. I mean, I've posted my macros in a prep before and had people in my DMs like, "Why are they so low?" It's like because I'm gonna be shredded. I don't know what to tell you. You know? It's blowing their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, have you guys ever gotten any hate from people for doing anything like that?
Me?
Oh,
No.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Very like this is a long time ago. This is probably like 2019 or whatever. And it was like a Gen Pop, like, weekend warrior type of younger female client. And
Yeah.
I had dieted her pretty hard. And she eventually just like, just had a breakdown and couldn't do it anymore and quit. And I was just like, okay, no problem, whatever. And I thought, we parted ways on a good note. And then like a few weeks later, someone sent me this like massive Instagram post that she made, and she talked about how like I gave her an eating disorder and how she hates like fitness. I ruined her relationship with food and all this stuff. And I was just like, no, I did not. But
Mm-mm.
if you feel that way, that's fine. And I never spoke to her again. But yeah, people, I feel like, when you drop them into the ocean and you make them swim like that, some people resent you for it because they're just not prepared for like just how like uncomfortable
Hmm.
it can be. And they think like every part of their body tells them this is wrong. This is not how it's supposed to be. And I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I
That's a
see.
great point. There's also the context is sometimes just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm.
Yeah.
There is a degree of that. Like I would think that any of us sitting here, if we had someone that came in and they specifically mentioned like some disordered eating or were really picking up on some real heavy cues, some red flags that you probably wouldn't advocate
No way.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's not that again, like that's why I said that it's so difficult to give any type of suggestions without context because yeah, there's plenty of people that they just need to get away from that for a while because they need to figure out how to exist without it and how to correct some of those behaviors and disordered patterns. So you're not going to do that eating 900 calories like it ain't going to happen,
No.
right? But at the same time, some people now they're so used to coaching quote unquote functional health that they're afraid. And honestly, I don't knock anyone for that. I've actually seen that a lot with the coaches I help that they learned how to get their clients better and now their clients want to lose body fat, but they're kind of afraid to do it because they're so used to not restricting them.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So I always thought that was interesting because
That is
I came
interesting.
into the space in the opposite as bodybuilding and fat loss and that's how I coached.
Yeah.
I learned it in the other order, but a lot of people are learning it in this order of how to correct issues and health and all,
Yeah.
first. And so now they're like, hey, I can actually get my client better and they can lose body fat, but they don't know how to do it. And I
Well,
was like, oh, that's
you're
really
making me
weird.
think of a post I saw today by some coach. It was he made this whole big thing about dieting is not important at all unless you're too fat. That was the quote from the post.
That's a good hook.
What the fuck? You know?
Dieting
Like
is not important
at
unless
all,
you're too fat.
unless you're too fat. All that matters is the super special training that I made up or whatever the fuck he was trying to sell. You know, like Man, I think diet's the most important. If you were really going to tier things, but you know, I bet you someone
The-
clicked that and gave him money for something. You
That's a
know?
weird, that's a weird take.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's new. That's different.
yeah.
Yeah. What sort of it's basically what sort of insecurities and biases can you trigger to get someone to pay you? That seems to be
100%.
the name of the game on the internet now.
Yeah.
Appeal. There's a appeal to emotion, a very heavily biased emotion,
Hmm.
emotional appeal.
Hmm.
Yeah. If if anything, I think that a lot of our content probably is more so to vet out the people that don't want to do the things. I'm like, I offended at least 10 people with that
Yeah,
post.
yeah.
But that's okay because they weren't going to sign up anyhow. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
now they're really not going to. But oh
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
But
So it
I
goes.
don't know, man. I think that we're so bit, fitness has turned into a business so much now that
Yeah.
people are just dishonest and shitty. And
Oh yeah.
they just want to sell something to whatever population that they can grab onto. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, with that comes less logic. It comes more appeal to emotion. And it has slowly but surely shifted in that direction.
Mm.
But that's everything. That's the whole space. We were having a conversation before the podcast started about that and about mentorship and educational platforms and all that stuff. And that's
Yeah.
just it's unfortunate, but it's also good in some ways because at least we can stand out,
Yeah.
hopefully,
Hopefully.
ideally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for people listening here who want to start on their own fat loss journey, maybe experiment with some things before they hire someone to help them. You know, I'd like us to all kind of like give like some like piece of information here to like guide them. And
Mm.
I would just say like, I'll start with just like diet. I would say, take a good look at yourself, in the mirror, weigh yourself, and try to estimate how much lean body mass you have, right? So how much muscle, how much your muscle, your bones, your organs might weigh if you were completely fat free, hypothetically, right? So if you're 160 pounds on the scale, like I said, you're roughly probably going to be 120, 130, right? And then what you do is you take that 120 to 130, and your protein intake should be anywhere from zero point 0.8 to maybe 1.25 times that number. Your carbs can be anywhere from one times that number to 2.5 times that number, right? So 120 to probably 200 grams of carbs you could start with. And then fats, a healthy amount of fats might be 50 grams, whether you're a male or a female. Okay. That's a good starting point, roughly. Start there. Do like 4 meals a day and see what happens. And if you lose weight, add a little bit of food. If you don't lose weight, take away some food. That's it.
Yeah, I mean that is essentially a starting point. Factor in your and you can decide if you want to take away food or add expenditure, but
Yeah.
always always do what's probably least invasive to your life and your schedule. I think in an ideal world,
Hmm.
Yeah.
would you agree? I mean, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think
Everybody needs to make it fit somehow.
as best you can,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
if you're ultra busy and you're a business owner and you own, I don't know, it might not be practical to do 15,000, 20,000 steps, but if you have enough
Yeah.
calories, you want to eat less, that's probably a little easier. It's not
Yeah.
hard to eat less when you're busy anyhow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's honestly some of my really busy like go 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 business owning kind of clients. That's the thing. They're like all week when I'm working, it's hard for me to eat. Then on the weekend when I slow down, it's like I want to just binge, yeah, And it's like okay, we got to balance them out. But also somebody that is well off, has money, is working all the time. They can rely on maybe meal prep services. They don't have to worry about cooking it themselves, so they can just pay for the convenience. That's something I recommend a lot, and a lot of people don't even know that exists. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love those recommendations Jeff gave there, and then you kind of figure out how it fits into your lifestyle. That's essentially what we're doing as coaches, and then beyond that, we're trying to we're getting a little more nuanced because we're looking at patterns and trends as far as when this person gets really fatigued or stressed, what happens to them? Do we need to give them a break? Do we need to change? Do we need to adjust?
Hmm.
So, but that's just something with experience that you can learn,
Hmm.
that you
Yeah.
can learn over time. But for the vast majority of people, the starting point doesn't need to be complicated.
No,
Find
people
something
obsess
you
way
can
No.
too
do
much with like
consistently.
the minutia of it all, and it's just like just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Start somewhere, latch on to something that you can be consistent with, and like every 2 weeks, assess yourself. Because another factor here is time. It's not that we're saying that every single week you need to eat less and less and do more and more and more. Sometimes like if you like have a decent starting point that's like 70, 80% right for you, you can ride that until the wheels fall off. You could ride that for 20 pounds,
Yeah.
if you give yourself enough time and consistency.
For
So
sure. Yeah, and it's not always a linear process. Sometimes you'll see a couple weeks where you're moving and you'll see a drop. That can be stress related, sleep schedule, all these things. It can be menstrual cycle related if you're a female, you know, looking at your trend over the month versus days and weeks can be helpful. Like I like month to month trends. They're like, "Oh, I'm up in weight." I said, "Okay, but when you ovulated last month, you are actually two
yeah,
pounds less than you were then."
Mm.
yeah,
Right? These are trends and things over time. Um, Males maybe don't have that as much, but males also probably carry more inflammation around. They're bigger, so when they train, they fluctuate more. If you're over 200 pounds as a male, it's not uncommon to see your weight jump up and down 3, 4, 5 pounds in some cases.
oh,
Like
of
Oh yeah.
course.
that's not hard to do. I could lose if I went out of town and didn't eat enough, I would lose like 10 pounds.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that I found like a lot of my Gen Pop clients like don't quite understand or are always surprised by. And it's like I had one lady who told me that she got extra steps this weekend. I was like, "Oh, great. How many steps did you get?" She said like over like 25,000 steps. And then she says like I feel very heavy, like my legs hurt and like my weight went up. Why is that? Because I thought I'd be burning the calories. And I said, "Well, your legs are inflamed. They're holding a lot of water." And she's like, "Well, should I do cardio today?" I was like, "No. Don't do any cardio for the next couple of days. Let your legs feel better, and that water weight will come off." And then she's like, I also wasn't good about my water intake, and I was walking around the city. It was really hot. I was like, okay, well, that's another reason why your body's retaining water. Drink more water and rest, and you'll lose like 5 pounds over the next 2 days. It's like stuff like that that just we have to educate because people just freak out, and then like someone like that would slash their food even more and
Hmm.
drive themselves into a greater state of stress. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying there essentially is maybe just understand what causes fluctuations.
exactly, that's another thing. When we say biofeedback, that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. We're trying to read the body, what the body's telling you, and it's very easy to misinterpret that and then take that misinterpretation and do something else that is wrong for the situation and the context if you don't know what you're doing. You know enough to be dangerous.
So what so if we were to give the listeners maybe what are the things that would typically cause fluctuations? I mentioned a couple. Menstrual cycle would be
Yeah.
one. It blows my mind that some people still are like, I gained 2 pounds this week, and then right below that, they're like, my period's about to start. We
Yeah.
did this for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
I know it's an emotional response. I'm not dogging
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's like don't make it that hard on yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We've done this before. But so that there's one. And Jeff, you mentioned inflammation from maybe overexerting.
Yep. Overexerting. That's another one. I don't know. Trey, Eric, you guys got any?
Sleep,
Yeah.
stress.
Sleep came to
Yep.
mind. Yep. Yep. Bad night of sleep or a couple bad nights of sleep. Puff right up.
Yeah.
Waking up early. I noticed that most people will actually be for like every hour you wake up early, it can be a half a pound, 2 pound heavier.
Oh, you
Oh
got
yeah. Yeah.
formula.
Yeah.
Just because inflammation, B, water balance as far as how much you've urinated and all that.
Yeah.
So that's a very simple thing that you don't think about. If you get up earlier on Mondays to go to work, then you get up on the weekends because you're not working,
Mhm.
yes, you are going to be heavier 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these are just things that people don't maybe they don't think about, or they obviously honestly are just emotionally attached to,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when they start seeing weight loss after, such a long time of not seeing it, they really hang on to that linear progression. And any little bump in the road just triggers them. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fat again. I'm going backwards. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's for these reasons that it happens. So that's another thing
yep.
to be aware of. Yeah. What else should we
Well,
add to this, Trey? What do you think?
Mm.
I mean, my biggest thing is keep it simple and then don't just use your weight as a guide tool. These
Yeah,
are like
that's
conversations I had beforehand. So, like a lot of people, if they're having their cycle, I don't ever do their measurements or weight that week because I know they're going to freak out. So, I just tell them don't even bother tracking it.
yeah.
I think having those conversations are already, if you're going to do this on your own, just try to avoid those times.
Hmm.
Use other things to track weight or track progress. So, I have a lot of people that maybe they don't like the scale or they get too caught up on it. We'll just do measurements every month, or they'll have their check-in outfit and they go off of how tight is this compared to previous weeks. And that's kind of what we've done to get around the weight type of thing. So I think if you look at other type of feedback versus what's my waist size or what does it say on the scale, it's going to kind of get them out of their head from wanting to do more, eat less type of thing.
Yeah. The weight thing is, you know, I want to say that, weight will go up and down. That's one like hard truth, right? Another thing is like you might not like how much you weigh when you finally get down to as lean as you want to be. And that's something that men struggle with a lot. Like I have a guy right now who started with me around 196 pounds, and we're down to about 162, 164, and I want him down to 150. And he said he was like, I haven't weighed that much since like high school. I don't even think I was 150 in high school. That's really small. And I was like, well, yeah, you don't actually have that much muscle on you. Like, so if we take off those love handles and your chest fat and everything, like you say you want, you're going to be like
There's
another 10, 12, 15 pounds less. So
5 pounds there, 5 pounds there, 5 pounds
yeah,
there, 5 pounds there,
so
10, 20 pounds
that
here.
happens with first-time competitors too. They're like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm going to be a lightweight? I'm supposed to be a light heavy?" I'm like, "No,
You
like
know.
for lightweight." you know.
Yeah.
And then for women too, like I've had conversations with women where I'm like, if I could give you the body of your dreams, like you look exactly how you want to look, but the scale said 160, would you be okay with that? They're like, no, 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 I don't want that. I'm like, but you look exactly how you want to look, but you're just not 115, you're 160. And like they don't like that. And I'm just like, as you build muscle, you're gonna weigh a little bit more. And that's those are the mental hurdles for men and for women, as I've seen in practice with weight.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And so it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Guys being too light, women being
Yeah,
too
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
yeah.
um,
Guys don't want to be small.
yeah, well, it doesn't, yeah, like we know that it doesn't really make any difference at the end of the day, especially unless these are weight restricted sports that they're playing or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think too that when it comes to weight loss goals, since you're talking about that, is a lot of people don't really know. They don't really understand how to set those goals. They're basing a number off of maybe what they were in the past, or I don't know. It's just literally an arbitrary. I want to lose. I think if I lose 15 pounds, that I'll be where I want to be.
Hmm.
I'm like, probably not.
yeah,
Maybe doesn't really matter.
That's a hard conversation sometimes because you challenge their belief, and I had the opposite one time. There was this guy who um he I guess I'll just say it. He looked terrible, you know, and he was like, I'm really experienced in the weight room. I know exactly what I'm doing. All I need to do is lock in a little bit, and I will gain 5 pounds a week in muscle. And I was like, cool. Like, no, you won't. It's actually going to be more like this, more like that. And he wouldn't accept it, and he quit. And it's like, what do you do? Do I say yes, you will, absolutely, or do I tell him the truth, or you know what I mean? But he was so convinced. He was so convinced that that's what's going to happen. You know?
Yeah.
Man, I want to gain 5 pounds a week
Oh, who doesn't? That'd be
muscle.
amazing. You know?
How do you do that?
Oh, you can, Austin. I hate to break it to you.
Oh shit. Okay. That's what you're saying. You can't.
Yeah, sorry.
I got you. I got you. I got you.
Anyway, I'll bill you for that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you
Thanks.
got
Consult.
it.
That was a consultation
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a paywall behind that.
Yeah.
Um,
Billable hours.
Yeah.
the yeah, I think that's a we talked about goal setting on one of the episodes. We talked about, how to help people set realistic goals and understand goals and not use comparisons and yada yada yada. So
Mm,
I think you guys could go back and listen to that episode. But ultimately I love the suggestions Trey gave as well. And if you truly if you truly can want to detach from that, if you really struggle with it, then that's fine. I do think as a coach, I will say that having weight as a parameter is helpful. We Most of us would probably actually prefer to be able to use it to some degree,
Yeah.
but we don't have to if you can't. If it's
Yeah.
something that's too mentally taxing for you, we can go without it, but it does help.
It does help. Yeah. Like today I posted a couple transformations that are, fairly early on. And like, one guy lost like almost 15 pounds in a month, but you don't see it on his body yet. I have a lot of transformations like that you can't see the difference, but they've lost like some guys have lost like 20 something, 30 something pounds, but they're just so big, you know? So it's like, and
Yeah.
it's been like, let's say 2 months for someone like that, right? Who's lost like almost 30 pounds. And so it's like when you don't have weight and you only have pictures and they're not great at taking the photos. So sometimes they look
yep.
different or they're in different lighting. It's hard. And you could have 2 months go by where you're kind of flying blind and just kind of hoping you're like within target. And then you hope that when they finally do step on the scale, like every now and then, that it's moving. So it is helpful. But I also have people, wearing the same clothes. It's always the same pair of shorts, always the same t-shirt or something. And that can give me some subjective feedback as well. But yeah, the scale is important, but not all end all be all, I would say. Yeah.
The that's a great point too, is the clothes will fit differently, inches, you'll shrink down, but as far as you've got to be relatively lean to start seeing visible muscle
Yeah.
separation. And the other thing is you have to have enough muscle.
Right.
That's the other thing. You can't, if you have no muscle at all, you're not going to see visible muscle separation, even if you get like, even if you lose body fat. So
Yeah.
that's why if you look at something like contest prep, all of us here at prep, so there's that point where you get lean enough and then every even half a pound or even like every couple of ounces you lose is visible
Oh
because
yeah.
you're so lean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything beyond that point is like almost a day-to-day difference, or at least every
Yeah.
few days you're seeing a difference. But you had to lose 20 pounds prior to that to even notice that anything happened.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? The only thing that's happening at first is you're just like, fuck, I'm just getting smaller every week
Yeah,
for
yeah,
like the first fucking 8 weeks.
Yeah.
yep.
And
Yeah.
then
The
and then
last
I'm
four
like, okay,
weeks.
now I
Yeah.
can see it.
Last 4 weeks are the most exciting. You really, really
Yeah.
changes like daily. It's cool.
You're just getting flatter and smaller every week until you
Hungrier.
can, yeah, until you visibly can start seeing a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's going to be with Gen Pop. Like people don't realize I want to see definition here and here. It's like, okay, you have to have enough muscle to do that, and you've got to get lean enough to do it, and it's going to be a lot more than you think.
Right.
You know, that's a substantial goal. If you say like, I want to see definition in my quads, definition in my shoulders, I'm like,
Yep.
it's a pretty substantial goal.
Mhm.
Like it's going to take time, and you're going to have the tissue to be able to do it. You
That's,
know,
yeah.
so something to think about.
What else do we have here? Anything else that we want to impart on our listeners, or you think we've done a good job, Trey?
I mean, I think it's just don't always follow everything that's on social media. It's okay to push. You're not pushing for forever. Like,
Yeah.
and then I think also like go back to and listen to the goals podcast or expectations podcast.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Mhm.
major thing is most people just do not know what to expect when they set XYZ goal. Um, like I have a guy now, we're trying to diet him down for his next growth phase, and he's like, "Is this lean enough?" I was like, "Honestly, I'd prefer to be a bit leaner." He's like, "How much?" I was like, "Probably another 15 or 20 pounds." And he was like, "What the heck? Like, I'm already starving to death. Like, can't do that." I'm like, "Okay, then we need to just change your expectations of the look that you're wanting if you
Yeah.
think you cannot do that." So, um, I think that's another big one. And then just again, it's okay to diet really hard at times. I can assure you doing it for 2, 4, 6 weeks is going to kill you. And most of the people we are fear mongering not to do this, unfortunately, have more than enough composition or body fat on their body. They are not going to die. I'm sorry to break it to you. Like me and Val joke all the time. We just need to put people on their survivor, the OG survivor diet,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the weenie stuff they do now, the OG one where you literally are not eating a thing. And I would assure you, 9 out of 10 cases we all get would be just fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to, they are not going to die. Unfortunately, social media and all the functional coaches and stuff has blown it out of proportion
Yeah.
um, with that. So I think that's just an important thing
I think
to remember.
one thing that I would add as like a parting takeaway is that you have to also think like, is it worth even doing to
Yeah.
begin with? Because if you're someone who's very, very resistant to, getting lean, your genetics, just your set point, you've always just been a big, big bone person, carried a lot of body fat, you're gonna fight tooth and nail to get down to where you want to be.
And then
Whether
staying there.
and then to stay there, to actually make it worthwhile and maintain that, you're going to have to continue making time sacrifices and,
Yep.
restrict yourself with food to slowly force that set point lower and lower and lower. And you can do that over a long period of time, or force your body to where it's more comfortable and it's no longer the food noise isn't as strong. But every time you do it, it's going to be harder and harder, or it's, the food noise is always going to be there to some degree. So just ask yourself, like, is it even worth like embarking on this journey to begin with? Because you don't want to just do all that and then go right back where you were, So maybe some happy medium in between might be good. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a dude. I mean, I think that's a great takeaway. If there's anything that would help people
Yeah,
to add to Jeff's point is gain muscle.
Yep.
first.
Seriously.
Yeah,
No, gain muscle. Like take
Yep.
time to gain muscle. If you want to look better and not have to be as lean to look better, gain muscle.
mhm.
Like you will look better at a higher body fat if
Yeah,
you have more muscle. And you don't have to have a substantial amount of muscle. You don't have to be like crazy jacked or anything, but if you have a little bit more muscle, you will look better carrying more body fat
yeah,
just because you'll have more shape to everything. That's just how it is.
yep,
You know, it's going to be really difficult to look good at a maintenance level if you have zero muscle tissue.
yeah. Man, that's the Ozempic face that people get now.
Yeah.
Their body. They can maintain that, but they're just like kind of skinny fat, skin and bones kind of.
Yeah.
So
Whatever floats your boat.
Yep.
yeah, if that's the look you want.
Doesn't hurt
Eric,
my
any
feelings.
parting notes here? No?
I think.
I'm good on my end.
Yeah.
Good talk.
Cool.
Good deal, fellas.
All right. Well, I will get this uploaded, put our nice little intro to it.
Yep. I'll get it get my stuff done. I'll get it sent over to Gabe here. Um Whenever. If it's not tonight, tomorrow, depends on how the class goes and stuff.
Yeah.
So
All right. Awesome. Anything else that's going on for any of us that we want to announce or
I think that was the most immediate thing. I don't think we have any workshops or anything coming up just yet. We probably will
Yeah.
we just
before.
had the Q2 one, right? That was the
Yeah,
Q.
so it'll be Get a little bit longer before any of that stuff's going on. Nothing, nothing too crazy at the moment,
Yeah.
which is fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that. Yeah. Cool. All right,
All right,
guys.
fellas.
Yep, that's it. And everyone, thank you for listening.
Thank you. See you
All
guys.
right.